You're watching Shooting USA, America's #1 source for firearms news and information.
The Army Marksmanship Unit's International Pistol Team competes with .22 rimfire around the world. But that's not what Sergeant First Class Rick Merrill chooses when it's time for hunting. Then he's ready with the .500 Magnum and some tips for handgun hunters on how to use it effectively in the woods.
While I enjoy archery and rifle hunting, nothing is more thrilling than taking a large animal with a big bore handgun. Today we're going to discuss improvised rest, proper position, and grip using the Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum. The Smith & Wesson 500 is a double-action 50 caliber revolver capable of taking down any type of large game in North America. While this handgun is very powerful, shot placement is always key. Revolver grips are designed to allow the firearm to slightly roll back into the palm. I grip with my right hand and support with my left. Remember to keep your support hand under the trigger guard, keep a firm grip, but not squeeze so tightly that you start to tremor. Remember to smoothly pull the trigger to the rear while not disturbing the front sight, as that is the focal point and not the target. Remember never to lock your elbows out while aiming. By keeping your elbows bent and flexible, you can better manage the recoil and get back on target for follow-up shots. Proper grip and trigger control are essential. However, adding a rest will only make you that much more accurate. I have two types of rests that can be made at home or out on the field during your hunt. First, I have two sticks bound together with 550 cord. I've shaved off the end so that I can dig the feet down into the dirt. This is my preferred rest, as I can wrap my ankles around the legs, adding to the stability and resting my hands at the joint. Second, we have a single stick with a natural joint which I have trimmed down to make room for my hands. Being a single leg type rest, this one is less stable. The advantage to a single leg is I can quickly and easily change elevation. I prefer to shoot this from the kneeling position, allowing me to move my body and my gun up and down. Remember, using some type of rest will help you place accurate and humane shots on game. So until next time, enjoy shooting your Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum and stay Army strong.
Thanks, Sergeant. By the way, Sergeant Merrill fired about 30 rounds of Federal 500 Magnum for that pro tip. His padded shooting gloves turned out to be a really good idea. We've got the transcript of his pro tip posted at the website at shootingusa.com. For all of us, I'm Jim Scouten. Shoot safely, shoot often, and share your sport.
You're watching Shooting USA, America's #1 source for firearms news and information.
A few years ago, John showed you how he camo painted this custom 1022. The project generated a lot of buzz about the different ways to properly paint a hunting rifle. Well, in the Army, there is just one way, the official regulation on how to paint. We've got Army Marksmanship Unit gunsmith Grant Kennedy to show you a mil-spec paint job.
A rifle doesn't necessarily blend into its environment. It leaves a recognizable silhouette. The hunter and the warfighter alike can benefit from camouflaging your weapon to its environment. In today's pro tip, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But the first step is proper cleaning. In order to properly clean your weapon, you're going to need these items before you begin: masking tape, foam earplugs, eye protection, chemical gloves, gun scrubber, acetone, brake cleaner, or some other degreasing solvent that doesn't leave a residue, spray paint, and newspaper or paper towel. Right, begin by field stripping your weapon, ensuring that the bolt carrier and charging handle is removed. Next, orient yourself over a bucket so you can catch the solvent you're about to spray. One thing you should know about the solvent, it is highly toxic and flammable, so ensure that you're working in a well-ventilated area and not near an open flame. Begin by spraying half of the weapon from top to bottom, ensuring all dirt and oil runs down the weapon and into the bucket. Once that's done, wipe it down with a clean rag and set it aside. Pick up the other half of the weapon and repeat these steps. Once that is complete, do it again to ensure all dirt and oil is removed from the weapon entirely. Now, it's important to let this rifle dry off for at least an hour to ensure all the solvent is dried. If not, the tape won't adhere properly. In the meantime, I have a rifle I've already taped off, and I can illustrate to you where you need to tape it to Army specifications. Key features to tape are the barrel inside the handguard and out, the front sight post, and the rear-facing portion of the A-frame or gas block. If you have a rail equipped on your weapon, you need to tape off the slots that have rail number markings. Any moving part on the weapon and any markings, safety selector, trigger, magazine catch, semi-safe burst markings, and most importantly is the rear sight. Any paint inside this sight might render it inoperable. In order to ensure that paint does not get inside the barrel or the weapon, you'll want to insert a foam ear plug inside the flash hider with firm pressure. Do not use a screwdriver or any other type of tool to do this. Firm manual pressure is enough. You can also wedge a piece of paper towel in between the upper and lower, then close it and trim off any excess to ensure paint does not find its way into the weapon. Fill the entire upper receiver void with paper towel all the way up to the chamber, but do not enter the chamber or the barrel. You may also enter a magazine into the lower receiver to ensure that paint does not get inside of the magazine well. A lot of you traditional hunters use bolt guns. While the cleaning procedures remain the same, there are some minor variances in the areas that you need to tape off before you begin painting. You're going to want to ensure that the muzzle is taped off, also ensure that the bolt is removed, and any portion of the ejection port needs to be taped off as well. The trigger and any external moving parts also need to be taped off before you proceed to paint. All right, this rifle is now primed and ready for paint. The next thing we have to do is head out to the field and give it a couple of coats. When applying spray paint, always remember to use thin, even coats and allow each coat to dry completely before applying a different coat. When you're choosing the colors for your spray paint, always take into consideration the environment in which you're operating. This will help you blend your weapon into the environment. If at all possible, try to make sure you're outside when you're using spray paint. If it's not possible, try to be in a well-ventilated area because the fumes are toxic. Because we're at Fort Benning, Georgia, I'm using this pine twig as a stencil for my weapon. You can do the same thing no matter what environment you're in. Just remember to use local foliage in order to blend your weapon in. I've showed you the proper military way to paint a weapon, and this goes for you hunters as well. Until next time, stay Army strong.
Thanks, Sarge. Now, it should be obvious that the units camo painting their M4 rifles are choosing woods or desert colors depending on the mission. For hunters, you're going to be matching the colors where you hunt. Want a list of Army-approved paints and chemicals? Check the ProTips section at shootingusa.com. For all of us, I'm Jim Scout, and shoot safely, shoot often, and share your sport.
ShootingUSA.com, your resource for firearms news and information.
Moving targets, that's what match directors use to separate the master class shooters from the rest of the pack in practical pistol competition. So you will need to master the movers to advance in your sport. And we've got help with that. Private Shane Coley of the Army Marksmanship Unit is ready to show you how.
Those are different types of moving and swinging targets you'll find on the USPSA range. Today, I'm going to give you tips and techniques on how to shoot each one individually. This is a drop turning target. It's going to begin facing away from you, and once activated, it's going to fall, face you, and then turn away again. Now, I would rate this as an average speed drop turner. So whenever it falls, you can let it face you completely, engage it with the well-controlled pair, and then continue to move on. On a faster drop turner, as it begins to drop and the A-line perforation faces you, you can engage it there. Once it faces you, give your second shot and then move on. The important thing about this is during your walkthrough, know the speed of the drop so you know exactly where to place your sights. This is another type of moving target found common in USPSA courses of fire, the swinging target. Notice this target has a pausing point as it begins to go back in the other direction. The best way to engage this target is to wait for it to get this pausing point and give it a controlled pair. The most important thing about this target is to know the speed of it so you know how long of a pause you have to engage it. Notice how I can no longer engage this target at its pausing point because of no shoot or other cover. The proper way now is to timing it is according to the distance and difficulty of the shot. The way to do that is to align your sights so that the bullet breaks the A zone as the target passes by. Most important thing about this target is on your walkthrough, make sure you know the speed and path at which it swings, because this is the most difficult swinger in a USPSA course of fire. I'm prepping my trigger ahead of the target so that when I break my shot, my bullet will impact the A-zone as the target moves by. The last target we have here is the clamshell. Notice how the shoot target comes up in the back first before the no shoot comes up in the front to cover it. The key to engaging these target is knowing the height and speed in which it rises so that you can engage the shoot target at a stopping point. You do not want to be chasing this target up because it presents the opportunity to shoot over the top, nor do you want to wait too late because then the no shoot will cover the target. Clamshell is all about timing. All moving targets have one thing in common, an activator, which is usually a steel popper. Once the steel popper is engaged, there's going to be a short period of time before the moving target is actually activated. Use this time to your strength. If you have the ability, engage other targets before you actually engage the mover. Keep practicing these tips and techniques, and until next time, stay Army strong.
Thank you, Private. And it is worth pointing out, you've just seen every possible moving paper target you can expect to see in USPSA competition. So with those tips printed and stuffed in your range bag, you'll be ready for whatever you find in use at your local club match. How do you print the transcripts? At the website, of course, at shootingusa.com. That's also the place to find more information and links on all the products in today's show. For all of us, I'm Jim Scout, and shoot safely, shoot often, and share your sport.
You're watching Shooting USA, America's #1 source for firearms news and information.
You've already met the new high-power champ, Sergeant Sherry Gallagher from USAMU. By the way, she was also the Army's Soldier of the Year for 2010. And now she's ready to help with your long-range shooting, helping you understand how to read the wind.
I'm going to talk to you today about reading the wind and mirage. Being able to accurately read the wind and mirage will greatly enhance your performance as you compete down the rifle range. Here are some guidelines for how wind affects different things on the range. 0 to 3 miles per hour, hardly felt but smoke drifts. 3 to 5 miles per hour, felt lightly on the face. 5 to 8 miles per hour, keeps leaves in constant movement. 8 to 12 miles per hour, raises dust and loose paper. 12 to 15 miles per hour causes small trees to sway. Now that we've determined the wind speed, we have to determine its direction. This is because the wind blowing across the range has much greater effect on the bullet than wind coming from behind you or in front of you. When we talk about wind direction on the range, we use the clock system. Winds from the front or rear are 0 value because they do not shift the bullet's flight. Winds from the 1, 5, 7, and 11 o'clock are half value. Winds from the 2 to 4 o'clock from the right and from the 8 to 10 o'clock from the left are full value, and they have the greatest effect on the bullet. Another way to assist with reading the wind speed and direction is through the use of mirage. Mirage is the reflection of light through layers of air based off the temperature of the ground. These layers, caused by differing temperatures, are blown by the wind and can be monitored through a spotting scope to detect direction and speed. You can see what appears to be waves running across the range. This is mirage. The waves appear to be running right to left, which indicates a wind coming out of the right. To clearly see the mirage, the first thing that you need to do is focus directly on the target. Once the target is in focus, the next thing you need to do is take your adjustment knob, turn it a quarter turn counterclockwise, and that will make the mirage your primary focus. To better estimate your wind speed, what you want to try is wind bracketing. Wind bracketing is where you take the estimate of the highest possible condition and the lowest possible condition, and you take the average of the two and put it on your rifle. This should ensure that your first shot will hit every time. Today I'm going to be shooting at 600 yards, and I've averaged at the wind speeds about 5 miles per hour. So my hold off's going to be about 9 inches. In conclusion, what you need to do is take everything that we've learned today and apply them to your given wind conditions on your own range. Have a good time, and until then, stay Army strong.
Thanks, Sarge. And if you want to review those instructions from the champ, you'll find the transcript in the Pro Tips section of the website, shootingusa.com. For all of us, I'm Jim Scout, and shoot safely, shoot often, and at Camp Perry, try to hit that 10 ring.
ShootingUSA.com, your resource for firearms news and information.
You know, we do challenge our Pro Tips instructors with some pretty tough questions, and this is the one that will have you wishing you'd paid more attention in high school geometry class. But we've got the Army Marksmanship Unit to explain how angle shooting affects a bullet's flight and how you compensate for it.
All right, Joel, you see those rusty cars out there? About 400 on the left side of the road?
Yeah.
Okay, go to the 10 o'clock. You got an E-type at 500 meters.
Okay.
Go ahead, let me know when your crosshairs are center mass of the target.
On it.
Okay, we got about a 12-degree angle. Why don't you come down 3/4 from your 500 dope?
Hold the gun.
Okay, give me a very light right favor. Very light right favor. Very light right favor. Tango down.
Nice job, fellas. Let's make sure that rifle's safe. What you just saw were two of our shooters identifying and successfully engaging a target downrange by first determining its distance and then determining the angle to the target, applying that corrected data to the rifle and then firing, which leads us to the topic of our pro tip today, which is how to determine the angle to your target and then include that to change your data necessary to hit your target on the first shot. In this situation, Sergeant Mangione has an angle of 30 degrees to the target. This will cause a change in the ballistic trajectory to his target. Gravity is a constant pulling force that causes the bullet to fall to the ground the moment it leaves the rifle barrel. This pulling force is the same regardless of whether the bullet is fired uphill or downhill. To properly identify this effect, we need to first understand two terms. First, straight line distance. This is the distance between yourself and the target as range estimated or determined by a laser rangefinder. The second term is flat ground distance. This is the actual distance that the bullet will feel gravity's effect as it pulls it to the ground. This distance will get less and less as the angle to the target increases. To properly determine the flat ground distance from yourself to the target, first you need to take the cosine of the angle between yourself and the target. Then you multiply that cosine by your straight line distance from yourself to the target. That might seem a little confusing, so let's simplify it by using an example of Sergeant Mangione's rifle. He had an angle of 30 degrees to the target. The cosine of 30 degrees is 0.87. Our range to the target, straight line, was 400 yards, as obtained by a laser rangefinder. 0.87 times 400 equals 348, or a flat ground distance of 348 yards to the target. That's a difference of 52 yards from our straight line distance. The effects of angle shooting on your trajectory are increased with both the angle and the distance of the target. So unless the angle is extremely severe, you're really not going to notice these effects at ranges of 200 yards or less. So how does this apply to the shooter that is going on an elk hunt in the mountains of New Mexico? Well, you're going to need to do a little bit of homework. What I would do is I would formulate a cosine chart of some of the angles you're likely to encounter on your hunt. Secondly, you need to have an accurate ballistic chart of your rifle and your ammunition out to the distances which you're likely to engage your targets. Then, once you're in your likely hunting spot, go ahead and use your angle finding device and estimate the angle to some of the likely points that you might see your quarry. Then, you'll be best prepared to take all the information that we've given you, apply it, and bring home a successful trophy.
So, at a 30-degree angle to a 400-yard target, the bullet is only going to feel gravity for 348 yards, so your dope needs to be set for 348 yards, not 400. Got it? It's the cosine of the angle multiplied times the straight line distance to the target. And here's a couple ways to figure the angle and the cosine. This is the slope doper. Hold it along the sight or barrel, and it reads out the angle and the cosine. It's 20 bucks. Or from Sniper Tools, this is a cosine and angle meter to be attached on the side of your scope. It's 140 bucks. And in both cases, you still have to do the math. But not with this. This is the new Bushnell Scout 1000 arc rangefinder that measures the distance by laser and measures the angle you're sighting and does the math in its own little computer to give you the final answer for your scope setting. All that convenience and no return to geometry class will cost you about 250 bucks, but it's faster.
Shooting USA, the source for firearms news and information.
All of us here at Shooting USA are fans of the AR rifle, John especially. Well, the competition and tactical aspects are his focus, but in recent years, the AR platform has crossed over to hunters and is becoming known as the modern sporting rifle. What this really means is there's a whole lot of you with these rifles that will see time in the timber for hunting more than for competition. With that in mind, we've lined up one of the best AR shooters in the world. He's a hunter, a world champion, and a member of the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit. He's Sergeant Daniel Horner with a lesson on shooting in the woods.
Whether you're a shooter or a hunter, you need to be able to use the natural support that's available to you in the woods. So on today's pro tip, I will show you a couple of techniques that will let you utilize the natural support quickly and effectively. The first position I'd like to talk to you about is shooting on the left side of a tree while standing. To do this, I'm going to get a good firm purchase on the tree with my offside hand and create a cup with my index finger. I'm going to let the rifle rest into that cup while maintaining a good aggressive stance with my feet leaning slightly into the tree. One thing to be very careful of is to make sure your barrel is not resting on the tree in any way. This will throw your shots off target. The right side is going to be very similar with the exception of my support hand. This time, I'm going to lean into the tree with my palm. I lean into the tree to keep my hand from sliding down as I'm shooting. I'll grasp the rifle with my thumb and forefingers and pull the rifle forend against the tree. Again, my foot position is pretty much the same, leaning into the tree. This gives me a very stable shooting platform. These techniques apply to me because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, they will simply be reversed. The difference in these two techniques is concealment and support. Around the left side of the tree, I have more support to make an accurate shot. Around the right side of the tree, I have more concealment to keep me hidden from my target. Only you will be able to decide which technique you need to apply to your situation. The next position we'll talk about is the kneeling position. We'll start on the right side this time. My hand position is going to be pretty much the same. My palm will be right up against the tree and I'll be leaning into it. My thumb and forefingers will grip the forend of the rifle. My elbow is going to be on my knee and I'll be sitting on my left ankle, all while leaning into this tree. Generally, the more support you can get from the ground and the tree with your body, the better off you'll be. Now on the left side, it will be a combination of your right side kneeling and your left side standing. My hand position is going to be the same as standing. I'll be pressing into the tree with my palm and my index finger will create a cup for the rifle to slide into and rest on. My right elbow will be on my right knee and I'll be sitting on my left ankle just like the right side kneeling position. This is the quickest and most stable position that we've talked about. This is my favorite position for many different reasons. I can get into it easily in about one step. It elevates me above most ground cover. I can place long-range accurate shots on target, and I can leave easily. The tips I've shown you today will help you the next time you're in the woods. It'll be up to you to decide whether you want a more concealed, less stable position, or a more exposed but more accurate position. Until next time, stay Army strong.
Now, Sergeant Horner used a semi-auto AR rifle for his pro tip, but these tips and techniques are 100% the same for bolt gun hunters, especially the tip on not resting your barrel on any surface while shooting. Want to review Sergeant Horner's instruction? There's a transcript at the website, courtesy of the U.S. Army. Look in the Pro Tips section. And there's also more information on all the products in this show with links for more information. You can also take advantage of my standing offer to pay $10 towards your NRA membership. We all have an obligation as gun owners to support the organization that protects the Second Amendment and does good work helping disabled shooters. For all of us, I'm Jim Scout. Shoot safely, shoot often, and share your sport.